Test, test. Anna, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. I would like to call this meeting to order. Ms. Richards, may I have roll call, please?
Yes, let the record show, President Wade, that 4 members are here in person, and Board Member Van Hook is joining us via phone. Ms. Van Hook, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect.
Thank you.
Please join me in a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It's gonna get cold. Hey, did you do something? No, I said it's gonna get cold. This brings us to 2.1. I motion to approve the agenda. Ms. Jarman seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Ms. Richards.
President Wade, members of the board, we have another episode of Higley Adventures. So this evening, we want to recognize the College Board recipients. In August of 2024, the College Board awarded thousands of students nationwide with academic honors through the annual National Recognition Program. The program celebrates underrepresented students who excel academically on College Board assessments, including PSAT, NMSQT, PSAT 10, and AP exams. The 5 programs were open to high-achieving students from all 50 states and U.S. territories. We are so proud to share with our community the recipients of this honor from Higley High and Williamsville. I believe some of the students are joining us in person. So if you're here this evening, would you please come to the front of the room? This is simply incredible. I'm going to let you introduce yourselves. I don't usually do this, but I bet you can do it. If you did this, you can do anything.
Hello, I'm Michael. I'm a senior this year.
Maybe.
Yeah. And I'm planning to go to ASU next year to learn software development, computer science stuff. And I want to thank my mom, dad, and my little brother for joining me.
Hi, my name is Alexis Geffro. I'm also a senior from Higley. I'm involved in band. I'm the Best Buddies president, and I'm also a member of NHS. After high school, I'm planning to go to the University of Arizona Honors College for biochemistry.
Yeah, I'm Emma. I also am a senior at Higley. I'm in NHS, and I'm going to ASU for architecture next year.
I'm so glad you guys came this evening, and your partners up there in academic excellence shine down on Higley Unified School District. Now stay up here because I'm going to do Williamsfield and then have the governing board come down for a picture. Oops, not that quick. These are our students from Williamsfield High School. I'm not sure if any of these students were able to join us. Is anybody in the audience? All right, let's give them a round of applause. This is an amazing, amazing honor. And governing board, they would love a picture with you. All right, here we go again. Williamsfield High School is the Division I small all-girl show cheer state champions. Here to share a little bit more on this is Williamsfield Athletic Director Daryl Stengel. So Daryl, come on up.
Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Richards, the cabinet, thank you for inviting us here to celebrate this amazing accomplishment by this group of young athletes. This group of athletes truly does understand what it means when we talk about how a Blackhawk dominates in every aspect. This group, just to give you an idea of a day in the life of a Blackhawk cheerleader, 6 a.m. practice, 7:30 weights, 8:30 to 2:30 school. And then from 2:30 to 3 o'clock to 5:30, practice again. And then sometimes after that, they go and cheer for another one of the teams from either the sideline, the baseline. They've been at the pool cheering. They've been at the golf course cheering. They truly support what we do as a community, as a Blackhawk community. And they make me very proud. They make our school very proud. They make our community very proud. The whole time they're doing this, they maintain a 3.5 team GPA. So I am so very proud of this group of young ladies, and I want to introduce you to the 2024-2025 AIA Division I Small Group Show Cheer Champions.
Are you ready for a picture, or are you going to say more?
A couple more things.
Okay.
So after tonight, again, the selfless nature of these ladies, they're going to leave here because they just finished practice. They came here. They're going to leave here. They're going to go back. They're going to cheer for a basketball game. They're going to get up tomorrow. They're going to go through school. They're going to get on a flight. They're going to go to Orlando, and they're going to compete at the Nationals in both show cheer and game day cheer, which they qualified for earlier this year. So it just life as they know it. And again, so very proud of them.
triangle should be up here. Yes. They've got quite the reputation, and I mean a good one. So let's go with our points of pride. Let's start with Chaparral Elementary Principal Christine Hansen and Assistant Principal Terry Pepper.
All right. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, and cabinet. My name is Christine Hansen, and I am the proud principal of Chaparral Elementary School.
My name is Terry Pepper. I'm the assistant principal over at Chaparral.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It is our extreme pleasure to be here this evening to recognize 4 very special people in what we call the Shark Tank. We often say one team, one dream, and we could not do what we do without every single person in that Shark Tank. So let me kick it off, please, with our certified staff of the month, Mr. Robert Olette. Thanks. All right, Mr. O. Mr. O is currently a 6th grade special education teacher on our campus. He's been at Chaparral for quite some time. He's also our ed tech lead. He facilitates professional learning for our staff. He is our Purple Star School point of contact. He's a highly decorated veteran himself, which we're very proud of. But what is so special about Mr. O is he lives by the saying, see a need, fill a need, which we say at Chaparral. And whenever we give him a little shout out, I will always hear my teachers in the audience say, that's our Superman, he's our Superman. And Mr. O, you absolutely are, because he sees a need, he fills a need, whether it's literally digging trenches in the courtyard to make sure our sidewalks don't get flooded, or hanging in a bird feeder to help a student find her genius. You name it, he's done it. I could be up here for a very long time. So, Mr. O, please just know we appreciate you, and thank you so much for representing our Shark Tank. You get to stand up here with us. Mr. O, who did you bring with you this evening?
I brought my wife, Marty, and my oldest son, Ben.
All right. I have the honor of introducing our classified Points of Pride recipient this year, and that is Miss Betty Sanchez. So come on up, Betty. So Betty is a para in our CrossCap program. She services and supports some of our students with the highest needs. She shows up every day. She's been on our campus for years. She shows up every day with her patients. And just, you can feel the love emanating from her for her students, for her colleagues, and just our Chaparral campus. So we love seeing her every day, big smile. We don't hold it against her. She's a Dodgers fan, too much, but we just really appreciate all she does, and we couldn't do without her. So thank you, Betty.
Miss Betty, who did you bring with you this evening?
I brought my husband, Luis, and my daughter, Viviana.
Thank you. All right, next we would like to honor our Points of Pride student, Miss Delilah Palafox. Come on up, Delilah. Miss Delilah is currently a 5th grade student in the Shark Tank, and we are so very proud of her. She serves on our Student Lighthouse team, and it has been so much fun to watch her find her voice this year. Habit 8, for those of you who know the habits. A quick example, and Delilah certainly leads by example. I had asked her and another student to help us prepare for a video that we were going to use in a presentation, and I gave them late notice right before we went on October break. I called them back after break and was ready to go through kind of what we needed from them. Well, Delilah and her friend already had a plan. They had it all laid out. They were ready to go. I said, well, let me see what you got, and they nailed it. They nailed it. So to watch her speak in front of, actually, I believe it was Mr. Armstrong and our superintendent, a group that we were hosting. So I was so proud of you, and it's been so much fun to watch you find your voice and continue to lead and be that light that inspires others. All right. Delilah, who did you bring this evening?
I brought my family with my mom, my older brother, and my dad.
Good job, girl. Thank you. I'm proud of you. All right, baby, come on. Miss Pippi. Thanks, Mr. Pepper.
All right, and last but not least, we'd like to recognize our volunteer Points of Pride, and that is Miss Rita Baldwin. So Miss Rita is the grandmother of a couple of our sharks in the tank, and over the past couple years, she has really embedded herself in our PTO. She comes around campus and just brings her smile and positive energy. She's willing to show up and support anytime, anywhere, any need that there is. She brings us little treats and things like that, which is always appreciated, but we just really appreciate her passion for our students and our campus, and appreciate all that you do, Miss Rita. So thank you. All right. And she's got a crew with her, so Rita, who did you bring?
I have my granddaughters, Brianna and Nora, my son, John, my daughter, Anna, and my son-in-law, Rob.
Good job. Good job. Yes, thank you, Chaparral. And next, we have Power Ranch Elementary with Principal Michelle McNabb and Assistant Principal Nicole McCullough.
Thank you for having us here, Madam President and Board and Cabinet. We're happy to be here to recognize some amazing people at Power Ranch. I want to start by recognizing our certified staff member, Mr. William Cessalini. So he's known as Mr. C at Power Ranch. And he's been a remarkable addition to our staff this year. He's dedicated to inclusion, and his positive attitude have significantly impacted our students' behavior and fostered a respectful environment. Mr. C's efforts have made Power Ranch a better place through his service in the ABLE classroom and our Best Buddies program, and just helping students understand each other out and about on campus. We are incredibly fortunate to have you on our team. Thank you, Mr. C. Next up, we'd like to recognize our classified staff member, Mrs. Heather Pelea. So Heather is a joyful, warm, and accepting member of our Panther family, and she is incredibly loved by all. She's creative, enthusiastic, and it shines through in everything that she does. Mrs. Palaya's dedication and joyful spirit make our school a better place for both students and staff, and I can't imagine her being anywhere else. We appreciate you. Thank you. I apologize. I'm new at this. Mr. C, who did you bring with you tonight?
I brought my mom. We live together, and I take care of her, and so I'm glad she came today.
My family wasn't able to come today due to prior engagements, but they are here in spirit.
Our student that I'd like to recognize was unable to be here this evening, but I do want to honor Kai Gallagher. He's an exceptional student and human on our campus, intelligent, hardworking, an incredible artist, and he's consistently always works to lift others up when so much in our world tries to tear our kids down. So thank you, Kai, wherever you're at this evening. Thank you for being a shining example of kindness, respect, and hard work. We're so proud to know you and have you at Power Ranch. Thank you, Kai. And last but not least is our volunteer, Miss Allie Ratliff. So I am honored to recognize Allie Ratliff for her outstanding contributions to our school community at Power Ranch. Ms. Ratliff takes immense pride in her role on the PTO board, ensuring staff and students receive the support they need. Her passion and drive and unwavering focus on student well-being make her an indispensable part of our community, and we are truly grateful for everything she does. Thank you, Allie. And who did you bring with you?
I have my handsome husband, Greg, and my oldest son, Nash, and my sweet friend, Jackie, here tonight.
And thank you all.
Good job.
President Wade, we have some exciting events coming up in the month of February, beginning with next Tuesday. Our business partner breakfast will be held at the Power Ranch Barn. We're looking forward to having you guys and very many people in our community join us. On that same day in the evening, we have a parent event. It's a virtual event, Dangers of Snapchat. Wednesday, February 12th, we will celebrate Chinese New Year at Coronado Elementary this year. It's different than what we've done for, I don't know how many years. Board Member Schultz, you might know better than I do, a long time. So we're excited because it's going to be, I say it's going to be more like a carnival atmosphere. And so Coronado has stepped up to host, and we look forward to you guys joining us if possible. We also have preschool open houses. Cooley's preschool open house is February 19th. Sossaman's is February 27th. And one of our most favorite events of the whole entire year is our Best Buddies Carnival at Higley High School. So if it works for your schedules, Community 2, come join us. You will leave with the biggest smile on your face and your heart full. That concludes upcoming events.
Thank you so much, Ms. Richards. Next on the agenda are the requests to speak. Can you please play the video?
We value input from our constituents. This time on our agenda has been set aside for anyone from the audience who wishes to address the board. Those that wish to speak should have filled out speaker cards, which are due prior to the start of our meeting. Members of the board may not discuss, comment, or take action on matters raised that are not specifically identified on the agenda. Therefore, pursuant to ARS 38-431.01I, action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter, responding to any criticism, or scheduling the matter for further consideration and decision at a later date. Also, we ask that audience members practice proper public meeting decorum, refraining from either negative or positive responses, including clapping or verbal outbursts, to ensure fairness to all points of view. Those that refuse to follow these rules may be asked to leave. In accordance with Policy BEDH public participation at board meetings, if considered necessary, the governing board president shall set a time limit on the length of the comment period in order to ensure that each individual has an opportunity to address the board. The president may also set a time limit for individual speakers. Thank you for your cooperation.
Up first, we have Stephanie Giddings. I'm going to take that Stephanie was unable to make it. So we'll move on to the next one. Christina Schroep.
Can you hear me now? Sorry about that. Members of the school board, governing board, and cabinet, thank you for allowing me to speak today about the importance of maintaining the highly gifted Think program. The exceptional program is designed for students who qualify in all three areas of giftedness, providing them with the exceptional education they need to thrive. Cutting the Think program could worsen our district's already declining student population, as families may seek out other districts that offer similar specialized programs. HUSD must remain competitive with surrounding school districts to attract and retain our talented students. Neighboring districts require highly gifted students to attend separate schools, which can be challenging for families with multiple children. By keeping the Think program at Bridges Elementary, HUSD offers a unique advantage. It allows families like mine to have all their children attend the same school, regardless of their gifted status. This simplifies logistics and fosters a sense of community and belonging. It's also important to recognize that gifted students should not have to wait until third grade to receive services. These students have unique needs that deserve to be met early. The district must ensure these students have the resources and opportunities to reach their full potential. Gifted students are entitled to support just like those receiving SPED, speech, and disability services. In conclusion, maintaining the Think program is not just about providing an excellent education for our gifted students. It's about supporting our families, enhancing our district's appeal, and ensuring that HUSD continues to be where every student can succeed. Let's work together to keep this invaluable program in place for the benefit of our children and our community. Thank you.
Next, we have Mary Ann.
I know that the board is looking at moving the meetings back to 5 p.m. 5 p.m. will basically disenfranchise most of the middle school families and the middle school teachers. You all keep claiming to represent the community and keep the meeting at 6 p.m. So that way the middle school families can actually make it. Also, if you're going to keep asking the community for budget overrides and for more bonds, then we need a fiscal audit before we find ourselves in the same spot that Isaac is in. You are claiming to represent the community. Now represent the community. Thank you.
Next, we have Suzanne Stanley.
Good evening, Higley board members and members of our district administration. My name is Suzanne Stanley, and I've been a teacher at Higley High School for 5 years. All 3 of my children attend Higley schools, and I want to tell you about my youngest son. This bright and beautiful boy sitting in the front row right here is Nixon. Nixon was born substance exposed and was brought to my home through the foster care program at only 2 days old. I was gifted with the choice of adoption after fostering Nixon for 18 months. Before he was even 2 years old, I started to realize there was something different about Nixon. He could write with nearly perfect handwriting, and he recited the alphabet backwards in the car one day. By age 3, he had taught himself to read and was doing basic math. When he was 4, we had him tested, and he was diagnosed with autism and hyperlexia. At age 6, Nixon writes short books, can do all sorts of math, and can tell you so many incredible things about states, countries, planets, and more. His brain is magnificent and needs a school curriculum that pushes him to his full potential. Nixon did not get into the Think program at Bridges as a kindergartner. As disappointed as we were, he was blessed to have Miss Dunton at Cortina Elementary, who went above and beyond for a student who was extremely gifted and made sure he didn't get bored in her class. At the end of kindergarten, we went with an IQ test that showed he was highly gifted and he was finally accepted into Think. The Bridges Think program has allowed Nixon to use his amazing brain for learning and growth in a positive environment led by teachers who understand his giftedness. These teachers also understand that he has social and emotional challenges that other students in a gen ed class may not have. My son's unique combination of strengths and challenges means that traditional classrooms often do not provide him with the appropriate level of intellectual stimulation or the social and emotional support he needs. The Think program at Bridges has offered him a safe and nurturing environment where he can thrive academically while also being understood and supported for his neurodiversity. Think is a form of special education. These students are born gifted and have specific requirements they have to meet in order to qualify, just like an IEP or 504 student. Having looked into the programs Higley offers, it concerns me that there are other programs that could have been considered before Think, wonderful programs that should be offered if Higley has the budget for it, but these programs are not special education. Taking the Think program away is a detriment to students like ours and also to the Higley district as a whole. The Think program shows an attractiveness to parents searching schools for their children and is something that other districts do not have. I am urging the board members and the district administration to please reconsider closing this program for all of the Nixons out there who are in need of the Higley Think program. Thank you.
Next, we have Chase Stanley.
Good evening, members of the Higley Board and School District Administration. My name is Chase Stanley, and I'm the father of Nixon, a first grader enrolled in the Bridges Think program. I'm here today to express my concern regarding the recent communication we received as parents about the closure of the Think program. While we feel fortunate that our child is grandfathered into the program and is not directly impacted by the change, I am concerned about the future for students like Nixon who are going to be impacted by this decision. As my wife said, my son did not enter the Think program when he was in preschool or kindergarten. It took us until first grade for him to be able to get into the program, and his early educational experiences were challenging for both us, him, and his teachers. For example, midway through preschool, several times Nixon's teacher had to deal with his refusal to participate or move on from a task he enjoyed because the task he was going to didn't engage him and he was bored. Fortunately for us, this wasn't the case in kindergarten, as Ms. Dutton quickly recognized Nixon's giftedness and went above and beyond, supplementing his regular education and tailoring her approach to meet his unique needs. However, we believe that a teacher in a standard classroom shouldn't be required to make such extensive accommodations, and there should be alternative educational environments available to better address the needs of highly gifted students like Nixon. Many of us parents believe the primary reason the Think program is being targeted for closure is due to budgetary issues caused by the failed bond vote. And it appears that to be the most reasonable answer, since no other explanation has been provided for the shutdown of this program. Given this is the assumption, we're left wondering why Think was not being prioritized over other programs to remain open, especially since these programs are not classified as special education or even STEAM-based programs, such as the dual language immersion programs. The dual language immersion program also features small class sizes like the Think program and promotes skills like a second language. The skill will have little need for in the future with advancements being made in AI, where we'll be able to have the computer translate for us. However, we need the best and brightest, like our kids in the Think program, to help hone and expand these new technologies like AI, robotics, and medicine, which are the very individuals that this program serves. I ask you to please reconsider closing the program, as this has been life-changing for our son and his peers, and also because it, unlike most other specialized programs, will continue to positively affect the gifted students of Higley and surrounding districts. Thank you for your time.
Next, we have Alistair Power.
So, good evening, members of the board. I'm here to talk to you guys about the cancellation of the Think program as well. I think it is a great disservice to the community that this particular program is on the chopping block. The reality, we've heard the stories already of our kids who are benefiting from this program. I am lucky that my son Bennett is also grandfathered into the existing program. But I think about things that matter to this district, like enrollment and competitiveness. And if we're not actually providing a value to the community, something distinctive, what prevents a parent like myself, who lives right around the corner from legacy charter schools, to take my gifted student and put him in that school instead? The entire reason my family decided to take him to Bridges was the offering that Think provided for us. The fact of the matter is that we have great, phenomenal, certified teachers who are specialized in gifted education. We've heard of the cancellation of the Think program. We haven't seen anything put forth as to what the plan is to service those kids from K through 3 moving forward. I looked at the operating budget today. I saw that there's a budget for gifted education for the Higley Unified School District of $850K. My question to you is, even though we are cutting this particular program, what are the soft dollar costs going to be to give the guaranteed gifted services, guaranteed by the state, to those kids who are no longer in the Think program? We're going to have to manage separate individual learning programs for each and every one of these kids, pull them out of classes for various gifted activities. Instead, what we have is a program where these kids can, in fact, learn amongst their peers, develop social, emotional bonds with kids who are like them. My son Bennett is a phenomenon. Don't give him your password, I'll tell you that much. But he can hack into pretty much any computer system at the age of 6. What we're doing is making sure that these individuals continue to thrive amongst their peers. Unfortunately, what we're setting up is to disenfranchise these very same students. Because let's face it, kids like Nixon, Kids like Bennett, kids like the other students in that class will get bored very easily in general education. Bennett could read and write his name at 18 months. That's not the standard for someone in grade 1. Thank you.
Next is Mark Scopa.
Good evening. I'm here to talk to everyone about indoctrination. On January 8th, and actually over the last couple years, between my daughter who graduated from Higley High and my son who's at Sossaman, I've become increasingly more and more concerned with the curriculum. So let's go January 8th, just a month ago. Introduction to social movements. This is what my son was being tested on that week. Things change when people make things change. What is a social movement? If parents knew what you were teaching the kids, just like the 300 other parents who pulled their students, everyone would leave, and none of you would have jobs. It's disgusting. So let's go into it. What is a social movement? Organized collective efforts by relatively powerless groups to affect social or political change operating outside the normal political channels. So what does that mean? People come together to plan and voice a need for change in other ways than lobbying in political office. Examples: civil rights movements, women's liberation movement, labor movement, anti-war movement. Let's go to the next one. Let's see. These three types of social movements. Reform seeks limited changes in some aspect of a nation's political, economic, or social systems. Most common, the civil rights movement. Revolutionary. So you're teaching the kids to be revolutionaries. This is good. Seeks to overthrow the existing government and to bring about a new one and even a new way of life. Example, American Revolution and the Russian Revolution. You mean the communist revolution that killed 30 million people and starved 10 million Ukrainians? Is that the revolution that we're teaching? Let's keep going. Let's see. Oh, the people in power control those traditional channels. Let's see, what's that one right there? Let's keep going. Key characteristics: operate primarily outside traditional political systems, arise due to a group's exclusion from normal institutional political channels, are always resisted by those in positions of power and privilege when it is a movement that threatens said power and privilege. People in power prefer protesters, go through traditional channels. So what's the alternative that you're teaching? So if the kids aren't satisfied with something, what are you teaching? Let's figure it out. What's next? Goal of social movement and the change they want to accomplish. Maybe it is to redistribute material resources more equitably. That's an interesting one. How do you intend to do that? More equitably. So you talking about more communism? Is that what we're teaching the kids in 8th grade? Let's see. Comply. It's a verb. Act in accordance with a wish or command. Why is withholding consent or compliance powerful? Powerful people only have the power we allow them to have when we comply. Let's see. How do powerless people exercise power? There's more. This is disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. And I'm going to keep going for a second. My daughter, you guys tried to assign my daughter
I'm going to
a book
ask
about
that you respect the
child
same
rape.
time
About
that
child
everybody
rape.
else had. Sir, I'm going to
So
ask
what is
that you
going
respect
on?
the same time.
I don't care. I don't care.
Sir, we can ask that you
I'm not
leave.
happy with the normal political channels.
That is fair,
Judging
and we
by
hear
what
you.
you're teaching, I can do this because I'm not
Sir,
happy with the normal political channels.
Can we, I appreciate your time.
Can we ask security to please
Okay,
escort him back?
I
Thank
appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Next, we have Kelly Montano. Sorry, Montano, my bad.
Madam President, members of the board, thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Kelly Montano. My son Leonardo is a first grader in the Think program at Bridges Elementary. I'm here to implore the board to continue the Think program at Bridges so that future gifted children can experience the many benefits that my child has. We knew that our son was gifted early on, much like what Suzanne shared when he began adding, subtracting, skip counting, and reading independently at age 3. We knew we had our work cut out for us. We began the search for pre-K programs that progressed faster than the standard 1 letter a week. We must have toured at least a dozen preschools with no luck. And when our son was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder at age 4, we knew he would need a school, a class, and a teacher as special as him. Forgive me for getting emotional. I can't express to you the relief of this mama when a friend of ours who was a former Higley Unified staff member recommended the Think program. My family lives out of district. We drive 25 minutes each way every day, and we have for 2 years. And I tell you that every single minute on the road is worth it. In the Think program, my son's benefited from accelerated and rigorous project-based curriculum taught by knowledgeable and effective teachers who specialize in strategies and best practices for gifted and twice exceptional learners. A few of them are sitting over my shoulder right over here. The Think class is smaller than average, which gives his teacher the ability to give personalized support to each student. It's common for gifted children, and especially twice exceptional children like my son, to experience loneliness, social isolation, but the Think program has ensured that that is not his experience. When I asked him, before I came here, I asked him, did the Think program, how did it help you, get to know your classmates, make friends? He looked at me like I was crazy, and he was like, I didn't need to get to know them. They were in my class last year. And I was reminded that the Think students progress through grades K through 3 at Bridges as a cohort, as a little team. They move through these grade levels together. And so the stability that this consistency has provided for my autistic son has been invaluable. Now, I understand that yours is a tough job. You have to decide which programs get priority and which don't, and I don't envy you at all, but I think we all can agree that every child deserves to learn something new every time they come to school. And that doesn't change if they're operating at 2 and 3 grade levels above their age level peers. So I implore you to continue the Think program at Bridges Elementary so that future gifted children can experience the many benefits that my child has. Thank you.
Next, we have Kim Jackson.
Good evening, board members. I stand before you with a protective concern for our district's commitment to transparency and adherence to proper protocols in decision-making. Recently, after submitting a proposal for the independent PE for grades 7 through 12 and receiving no follow-up, I sent an email to the Director of Secondary Education. The reply indicated that the administration would be providing their recommendations. This phrasing raises concerns about the process. Are these recommendations grounded in comprehensive evidence and facts before being presented? This isn't an isolated incident or concern. Last year, when I advocated for a town hall to discuss current and future cell phone tower contracts, the administration advised against it, leading the board to vote accordingly. Instead of presenting a balanced view of pros and cons and allowing the board to make an informed decision, the administration's stance seemed to preempt open discussion. Such patterns prompt a critical question. If policy decisions are handled in this manner, how are pivotal choices, like hiring a superintendent, approached? The board is entrusted with making these significant decisions, yet it appears administration influence may overshadow community input and transparency. It's my concern current administration approach seems misaligned with our district's best interest. As I engage more, it becomes evident that this methodology may contribute to declining numbers and erode trust. Board members, your duty is to critically evaluate the administration's actions, not merely to defend them. You represent the community's voice. As a new board, I urge you to reassess these practices, ensuring decisions are made transparently and and in the best interest of our students, families, and staff. District administrators, I'd like to challenge you to improve as you recommend on topics like independent PE options, communication by proxy, or the hiring of our future district employees. Please present all and any facts, both good and bad, to our board so that they can decide accordingly. And I just want to close with some positivity. Well, before I do that, I would just like to echo, your community is telling you guys that they want something. Board, as you advise administration to take action, please implore them to do so with both pros and cons. My concern is that they may see a biased approach and not present to you both sides to be able to advocate properly for the people here talking about getting rid of certain programs that they do not want you to get rid of. To end positively, I'd like to give a shout out to the entire 6th grade staff at Coronado Ranch Elementary. All 3 of my children have been blessed to be part of that program, and I'm super grateful for them, and I want to publicly thank them for all of their efforts with nurturing my children at that school. Thank you.
Moving on to consent agenda items.
President Wade?
Yes. Go ahead, Ms. Van Hook.
I'd like to ask Superintendent Richards to look into this assignment because I'd like to know how this fits into state standards.
Board
Thank
Member Van Hook, yes, we can look into it.
I appreciate it.
Yes.
I motion to approve consent agenda items 5.1 through 5.11.
Second.
Ms. Schultz seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries
President
5-0.
Wade, I'd like to just mention something that's in the consent agenda. There's an expense on there for an application fee for Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting. So we're paying almost $1,300 for this application fee. The only concern I have here is it feels like we're buying an award because we apply for this Certificate of Excellence and then we advertise that we received the Certificate of Excellence in financial reporting, but in reality it's like we're just buying the award and then advertising it that we got it. So I kind of feel like this process seems a bit deceptive when we're actually paying for it. So I'd like to understand the point if we're having to pay for it and it's not necessarily received because of truly being excellent.
Madam President, this is Jennifer McLennan, and Board Member Van Hook. If you'd like to discuss that item, the appropriate thing to do is to pull that item from consent so that there can be discussion at the board level. I believe we've already had a motion, second, and a vote on the consent agenda, so we would need to move on. We would need to move on in the agenda now. Thank you.
That's fine. I didn't expect an answer now, but I wanted to make that statement regarding that item. Thank you.
Before we move on, I would like to say thank you for the gifts and donations. I believe we have a slide to put up there. We can do that. That is, thank you to Melinda Lett, Catherine Ortiz, School Specialty, Chase Building Team, and Gilbert Centennial PTO for their generous donations to the districts and schools. This now brings us to our information items. We are looking at 6.1 Governing Board Initiatives for 2024-2025 update. Ms. Richards.
President Wade, members of the board, and the community, we adopted You guys helped to adopt our strategic plan in 2022. So every year, we work together to determine goals, and we've committed to bringing quarterly updates to you guys so you know what kind of progress we're making. So that's the purpose of this agenda item this evening. You also have some superintendent evaluation forms should you decide you want to make some notes, because these are all of our goals, but specifically how I am evaluated. So we always revisit our vision, our mission, and our values. And like I said, we went into this strategic plan and pulled out specific goals for this school year. As you look at our strategic plan, it goes through 2027. So we've systematically been going through these anchors, goals, and indicators to ensure we're making progress. Teaching and learning is strategic anchor number 1. And I'm a little partial to that one. I think that's why we're all here. We work together to ensure our kids are learning at high levels and that they're successful. Our portrait of the graduate is central to everything we do. We want our kids to be responsible citizens, college and career-ready scholars, and innovative learners. And as I mentioned before, we started a superintendent student advisory council. And you've got some dynamic kids there, 6th through 12th graders. And I was super impressed with their input. And so we made a little video that will tell a story, hopefully, and then I'll tell you more about this council.
This was the Superintendent Advisory Council, and essentially what they did is they got together a group of students, and we all got together and we answered some questions about the district, and they really just are looking for our input when they're planning for the future.
I think it's super cool that students are getting a voice to kind of explain what they see in the schools, because I think a lot of times adults have the say in most things, which is valid, but also students have a say too. And it's cool to know that our voices are valid and heard, and I feel very safe and comfortable expressing my opinions on things, even though sometimes it could be harsh to hear. I think it's a great opportunity.
Being part of this program is being like a leader for your school. It's a very important job. We find all the ways every school benefits us, and we find like what needs some fixing, what doesn't need some fixing, what certain programs help you benefit with your learning.
Higley is doing awesome. I love that they have so many different programs for every different level. They just do an awesome job of having the right curriculums for that and making sure we feel included. They just do an awesome job of promoting clubs and different groups of people. Like, there's something for everyone, no matter where you go.
So we have plans for this council to meet again in February. We're going to go to Chandler Gilbert Community College, Williams campus. We're going to go on a tour, and then we're going to dig deeper into what's going well in Higley and how can we improve. So what was interesting to me is when we were talking to these kids, a lot of these kids had never been on a college campus. So I was like, oh, opportunity there for us to get their feedback. So we're going to CGCC on February 24th, and then in May, we're gonna take them to ASU, to the Mix Center. So we've got some fun things planned. I want them to come in May and report back to you guys on what they've learned and where we need to go next, because they're always a lot smarter than we are. Okay. Something else we did this year, the Queen Creek Chamber of Commerce hosted their 8th annual Elevate for Tomorrow conference. and it's for local high school juniors. It took place on January 10th at the ASU Polytech campus. We took close to 100 juniors from Williamsfield and Higley. So during this event, they had the opportunity to meet with businesses, college instructors, and they learned a few things about how do you write a resume, how do you interview. So we have a little video on that, and I'm looking forward to these juniors getting, not these, but the new juniors getting to participate next school year. And I will say the president, Chris Clark, went out of his way to invite us. So, all right, we're gonna see him on this video too.
Today we're holding E4T. It's Elevate for Tomorrow. It's a half-day conference for juniors for career and college exploration. What we do is hope that they get an idea of what they might want to pursue going forward. And then they have their senior year to really dig in, get more information, find out extra details, and maybe make those final decisions about where they want to go.
We're hoping that they gain some experience on planning for their future and what they want to do in either college or career. It's nice because there's lots of volunteer speakers and guest speakers that are not only affiliated with the college, but also with career fields, so they can network and really gain a lot of insight into what they want to do in their future.
Today we're learning all about college and your career. People are taking different classes. I personally took a class on how to be better at interviews. I got to learn about how to be better at interviews, what questions to answer, and how to answer them.
I hope to gain better skills at interviewing. My interviewing skills personally aren't all that great, so hopefully I'll be able to take away a lot of better skills when I go home.
There's plenty of opportunities for everybody. We just really need to get these kids to take that first step, and they'll leave here with a better idea of what they might want to do going forward.
So I'm really looking forward to us partnering with these universities, because how many people in this country have this many universities around them that want to support? So Mr. Lotzenazer and I and Mr. Armstrong have met with people from CGCC and ASU, and I think we're going to learn a lot, and our kids are going to get exposed to what's out there. So I'm excited about that. As we move into strategic anchor number 1, teaching and learning, I'm going to turn it over to Marcus Berkshire to talk a little bit about Goal 1. And I've got the clicker, so.
All right. So our first goal is increasing our district-wide proficiency rate by 2% on both AASA, ELA in math, and ACT, ELA in math. So if you want to move forward. This year we've been very intentional in terms of the professional learning that we've done with not only administrators and teachers, as well as what's happening at the site, trying to look at our achievement and what we can do to improve. So with administrators, we've done a lot of work this year looking at the intentionality around what resources and instruction our staff are using with students. But now we've branched into looking at next year. So we've worked with our principals on a structured approach towards a comprehensive needs assessment, and then that root cause analysis that really dives into what the real true need is on our campuses. And we will be using their work that they've done at each of our sites to develop a district-wide integrated action plan and a needs assessment. We're very excited about the conversations that have had up to this point, and look forward to seeing where we end up at by May. With elementary teachers, we've done a lot of work around data and looking at data and what do you do with that data. For example, this past elementary PD day in January, we did a lot of work with our teachers on our new FastBridge universal diagnostic and screener platform. There are some wonderful reports that look at student growth, expected student growth, and how do you use that to look at what we need to do to help kids improve and grow even more. We continue with secondary, looking at formative assessment strategies, and then our sites following each of our quarterly benchmarks have engaged and worked with their teams, looking at those results and looking at what they need to do in the instruction happening in their classrooms to better improve results for their students.
All right, I am up to talk about the development of our instructional maps and how we are working with teachers to implement those. So I'm very excited to share that our team has completed the K-5 ELA instructional maps. Jody Walker was instrumental in getting those up and started, and today we started our 4th and 5th grade math instructional maps led by Wendy Stove, and that is going really well. I was excited about those conversations that were happening. And the K-3 maps will be completed by mid-March, so both the ELA and math maps will be ready for teachers to use to start forward planning for next year. And then the other item that we have left to complete are secondary fine arts and elective instructional maps. And we do have a plan in place for that. It is a matter of bringing everybody together to make that happen, because there's a lot of singleton teachers and figuring out schedules to make that happen, but it will get done. And then the next is working on adopting and implementing a comprehensive district-wide instructional coach model. And I'm really happy to share that we did identify Jim Knight as that instructional framework, instructional coaching framework that we will move forward with this year into working on planning out how we will train both our district site administration and our site instructional coaches and our district content specialists in the framework so that they're all able to work as one unit together on how to best provide job-embedded professional learning and coaching cycles for our teachers for next year. So we don't have a solid timeline on when we will get trained, but step one was identifying that coaching model, which I'm very excited that it's Jim Knight, because all of our coaches have been trained in cognitive coaching, and those go hand in hand really well. And I believe, skipped one. Back to Marcus.
So our next one was looking at professional learning communities and the multi-tiered systems of support within the district and creating a district-wide framework which aligns our practices across the district and philosophies. If you want to advance to the next slide. I don't have a clicker. All right. Our task teams for both of those frameworks have met 3 times. At this point in time, we've developed a vision for both PLCs and MTSS for the Higley Unified School District. We identified a theory of action for both of those. And then using that theory of action and the vision, we've looked at what the practices are across the district. We want to make sure that we honor what we're currently doing around PLCs and the MTSS processes. And then what's working that we need to keep, what do we need to introduce, and where do we need to be tight and loose on. And so we've completed that component and started to really start building out the framework. We hope to meet on February 24th and finalize that so that we can bring that to our admin team for presentation and ultimately share that with you.
Good evening. So I get to talk about my favorite thing, highly effective personnel. And that is a picture from our Higley Leadership Academy, correct? I think so. No?
Same room, different people.
Oh, okay. Well, it's not moving. Could you move? Oh, there we go. So strategic anchor 2 is highly effective personnel. And this year, continuing to provide meaningful professional development and support to all employee groups, and to continue to evaluate and seek effective means to pass on potential benefit to cost-saving employees. All right, there we go. So our progress so far, due to Ms. Miller's efforts with our paraprofessionals, the special education department, they continue to train our paraprofessionals and our teachers to make them as highly qualified as possible. And we continue to have PD days on Wednesdays usually, and they are doing a great job over there with our paraprofessionals and special education staff. Next, we talked earlier this year about the classified evaluation tool being turned into an electronic tool. Right now, we have our classified supervisors and employees using that tool. New hire evaluations have been done. That's the 90-day evaluation. We had 78 of those done so far this year. And then classified self-evaluations, we find our employees are definitely using the tool that we provided for them. 76 have been completed so far, with 50 in progress right now. Our classified annual evaluations are ongoing, so we should have some statistics coming in towards the end of the school year when those are due. We progress on our training. We have the Stop the Bleed training coming this February, and our Health Services Department with Ms. Jillian Fulton will be hosting that along with her staff. They've also been trained, our health services area, to do now free first aid and CPR training for our employees who need that either recertification or that initial training, so our employees no longer will have to pay for that. We have trained 3 members of the health services staff to be able to provide that. That should start this month as well. We continue to hire as needed. A little plug, we need bus drivers and we need bus aides, and if you know anybody, please send them our way. New employee orientation continues as needed. We continue to provide the More Than SAD training during the new employee orientation that is be provided, and as well as completion of the vector training while they're here learning about new things about being an employee here. We have upcoming recognition, which will be the Teacher of the Year recognition, and I apologize for the spelling area up there. It's or, it's not, it's of, it's not or. So we will have that announced shortly as well as we look at those applications and the committee reviews that. There we go. Progress, I'm gonna let Mr. Walker talk about this progress because this is his specialty.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Madam President, members of the board, the update on Indicator 2.2, we have our Higley Leadership Academy. We're about halfway done with the sessions for this year. In addition to that, our employees are representative of both classified and certified staff, have participated in some community bridging and building with volunteer opportunities. They came out to the Riparian Preserve in Gilbert and helped prepare it for a holiday setup, and then they've also done Feed My Starving Children, where they helped prepare meal kits, and they're going to do that again actually in a week. And so it's a thriving program, and it continues to attract people from all areas of our organization.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Okay, so progress on our wellness. We have quite a few things coming up. Thanks to our benefits department, they're putting together a pretty robust wellness program this year. We have the Mom Bus coming, a blood drive, the Maddie Bus, which is similar to the Mom Bus, but we always fill up the appointments on the Mom Bus, so we brought in another bus. We just began the Great River Walk Challenge. Teams formed throughout the district, and they will be eligible for prizes if they complete the walk, as well as a $25 gift certificate. So there is some prizes with that. Good participation. Many teams were formed throughout the district. Next is the Good Consumer Campaign, and that's something to help our employees learn about things that they need to know in order to make good decisions at their open enrollment for not only their health benefits, but other benefits as well. And I think that concludes the highly effective personnel.
All right, thank you. President Wade, members of the board. As you know, I'm Jessica Bautista, Director of Marketing and Public Information. I've been with the district just over a year, and I'm really proud of the work that my team has been able to accomplish so far. Last year, we launched the district brand and aligned those branding standards, and that work continues into this year. So I'll talk a little bit about that. And it aligns with Strategic Anchor 3, Communication and Community Relations. So this year, our goals were to establish systems and processes for site-level communication, including the website and mass notifications, and to establish relationships in our community to enhance student learning opportunities. So at the start of this school year, we launched new websites for the district and all schools, and we trained all of the office managers and school content managers on the content management system tools to keep those sites updated with course offerings. We also implemented some of the board directives, which include staff directories on each website and prominently displaying board meetings. So for several other action items on those new sites, we established a subscription option for our district newsletter, Higley Highlights, so the community can keep up to date with the news and activities and upcoming events. And to strengthen partnerships, we also reformatted our business and community partner breakfast event to include more networking opportunities. We're looking forward to our spring event next week, and I hope to see you all there. We're also really grateful for our venue sponsor, the Barn at Power Ranch, which is also new this year. That new venue allows us to use their space, which gives us an opportunity to include even more community partners. Our department is also continuing to curate contact lists for our stakeholder groups, including HOAs, PTOs, and local businesses. And if you have school-age children or live near our district, you may have noticed some of the marketing content that had started on December 2nd. We launched our quarterly marketing campaign to increase elementary enrollment, and we're almost finished producing school-specific marketing material for all sites to promote their unique programs. So you may have noticed in the lobby, we have all of those elementary flyers out there. Those have been distributed out to all sites, and they are using them for feeder events, community events, and more. So we also run geo-targeted digital ads, e-blasts to all families within our boundaries, including those who don't currently attend Higley schools. Distribute flyers to local daycare and preschool facilities in and around our boundaries and more. So I have a couple stats for those to share. So far, those ads on Facebook and Instagram, the Meta platforms, have reached more than 69,000 users and driven more than 750 visits to our enrollment landing pages. Search ads have resulted in more than 1.8 thousand new users visiting our enrollment pages, and digital ads have driven more than 5,000 users to click through to our website. And again, those campaigns are ongoing and have been tweaked and aligned every quarter. We reassess. And we just finished a big push to publicize our kindergarten roundup events that have received great feedback from our principals about attendance for those events last week. Now, one more important update to point out this quarter, we had previously prepared. One of the action items was for a new mass notification system. This is a new platform to share email, text message, and phone call communication to our families. This service is provided by Finalsite. I had discussed in the previous quarter, Finalsite acquired our previous vendor, Blackboard, which we used for website and mass notification systems. They had paused the rollout of their messaging system, so we have also paused our rollout of that transition, and we're reassessing our options for mass notifications. Our current system is still supported. We're really proud of the resources we're able to provide, and we're looking forward to more work this quarter. Tyler.
Just a quick update on Strategic Anchor 4, Finance and Operations. We are continuing to work on our 25 goals, which again include security enhancements and finding additional revenue sources for the district. A quick update on progress on 4.3, security updates. We have completed basically half of phase 2 of our camera installation, so all the middle schools have now been equipped with our upgraded camera system. Again, we're replacing outdated camera equipment that's some more than a decade old. that's been well received. On the high schools, we have all but 3 cameras left to replace at Williamsfield High School, and then this remainder of the spring, we hope to finish Higley High School. We are planning phase 3, a project for fiscal year 26, and this would be at the secondary campuses, particularly the high schools who have, they had 3 systems, and so with phase 3, we'll get them all down to 1 camera system, creating a more efficient system for our administrators and our district office personnel to use. Our traffic calming phase, the picture to the right highlights some of the newly installed speed bumps at Coronado. Again, this was recommended out of discussions with the town of Gilbert and some safety measures that we can take that are easily attainable to help address potential cars or high rates of speed. If there was a seizure or something in those lines, speed bumps are a way to help reduce the speed coming into those zones where children are either being dropped off or walking across. So that phase, we've finished about 4 elementaries over winter break, and we hope to have some additional speed bumps over summer. James, Mr. Walker, you want to talk about the mass communication protocol?
Sure. Working with our IT department and our facilities, we're initiating a piloting of a mass communication protocol tool. We're beginning at an elementary school, and then we're slowly phasing that in to distribute that across all of our K-12 schools in the upcoming months. And another nice update is that we were awarded a mini grant, an 18-month grant, to be able to provide a school safety officer on our Sossaman campus. So we've been working to get this accomplished for a couple years, and through the ADE's opportunity, the grant was awarded, and we have a consistent uniformed police officer on our Sossaman campus daily as a result. It is a mini grant. It runs through the conclusion of next school year. And so we're already working to find resources to continue funding and having that resource in the midterm and long-term future as well.
And just wrapping up with progress on 4.2, identify and seek additional revenue sources. We have presented and the board has approved the review of district fees, including the community ed and preschool, both before and after school program fees and the preschool tuition fees, in addition to the rental fees going into next year. Commerce Bank, if you recall, was a solution that we implemented this year for alternative payment method for our vendors. If they choose to receive payment via credit card, again, we give this option to vendors. Currently, our process is to pay paper check, but we did have a number of vendors enroll in that, and there is a kickback for the district. And so we're only 3 months through the progress, but we've received over $5,000 in basically revenue that we wouldn't have had for paying our same bills that we were paying previously. So we are still evaluating the foreign exchange program and looking at opportunities to increase revenue in that program. On the food service side, we are still evaluating the food service contractor versus self-op and what solution best fits our district. So that's in progress, and we may have more information at the next update. So with that, that concludes my comments and I think the presentation. So.
Madam President, with your permission, that's a lot of work from a lot of people, and that stayed here and stayed late to present to us. So a lot of people that are very dedicated to Higley. So I just want to thank you guys for that. I'm sure it's some intimidating. Some of you don't know me or know Ms. Jarman yet. But we appreciate your time and effort into putting all this stuff together and to staying late to keep us informed about all the good things and the hard work that you're doing. So thank you.
President Wade. Mrs. Richards, I'm super excited that we are partnering with Queen Creek Chamber now. I know there was a little bit of a disconnect for a while, and we made that happen, and it's super important that we're connecting the business community. And I know it was a great success, and the Chamber mentioned that you had said how good of it, I know you said it tonight, but said how good of a connection it was. And the speed bumps are helping at Coronado, I think, for sure, just to let you know. As far as, I just had one question for Ms. Batista. The ads that we're running, do you have, I know you said that elementary schools were happy about the kindergarten roundup. Do you have numbers to show how those ads have helped us or where people are coming from? Is there any kind of report that we could see?
We could have that at a later date.
Okay, perfect. Thank
The
you.
rounds haven't, the ad cycles haven't completed yet. So.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for everything that you're doing, and thank you.
Thank you so much for the presentation. I'm grateful that the SROs that were really, there's a big push for safety and security in the schools. That's very important to the community. Yes, and also the feedback on how we can adapt. And the finances touch base. I love how you guys really touch base with the schools. It's really hard being in a sticky spot where we have to choose sometimes wants or needs over wants a little bit. So I really appreciate you guys really getting out in the trenches and touching base on that. So continue to do that. And let's continue to work as a team, reach out to the principals and everybody and see what could maybe skirt away as an expense and what the children really value, and really make sure that we kind of put more of our spending in that area. So I commend you all. Thank you.
All right, with that, we're going to move on to item 6.2. Do you have a question?
Really fast, Mr. Walker, you said once the grant is done for Sossaman, then we're going to try for more grants. Is that? I know we've been trying to work with the town of Queen Creek and Queen Creek Police Department. It's not the same as our partnership with the town of Gilbert. But I just want to know where we go from there in 18 months. And if you don't have the answers now, just at a later date.
No, I do have an answer. We're not going to wait until the grant expires to seek another grant. We're working on it right now to see what kind of opportunities are out there so we can be prepared for when this grant cycle expires, if there's another grant cycle, or if it's a budgetary discussion. But we're working right now to predict and forecast what we can do once this grant expires in 2026.
And the town of Queen Creek wasn't able to help us with any of the costs at all, correct?
This funding mechanism comes through the ADE, so it's a grant that we applied for.
Right.
So
I just wanted to see there wasn't any discounts or anything anywhere.
well, we can thank the ADE for the discount as we receive the grant funding through that.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you. We're going to move on to item 6.2, a second review of the 2025-2026 maintenance and operations budget. We'll now hear from Mr. Moore on the second review of the 25-26 maintenance and operations budget.
Yeah, thank you, President Wade, members of the board. Tonight we're reviewing, like you said, the second review of the FY26 M&O budget. Just a quick recap. We are working towards our June 2025 adoption, but as you know, we have to work backwards into that final date to, one, prepare for contracts and get ahead of the school year before it starts. So everything tonight is a presentation with preliminary numbers looking at that adopted/proposed FY26 budget. Just filling in the highlights of what we know so far. Again, the AEL, the aggregate expenditure limit, as you've known, that has been an issue with the state legislature and state statute problem, as school districts have exceeded the budgetary spending as outlined in state statute by over $1 billion, but the state legislature has exempted districts and allowed us to utilize our full budget capacity over the last couple of years. Again, I'm still monitoring the legislation and looking at potential exemptions for the EAL in this legislative cycle. Also, I think I didn't include in here, but some of the hot topics included from a legislative perspective in regards to funding. We're closely monitoring Prop 123. There's been a number of different proposals on Prop 123 that currently provides the district about 800,000, excuse me. That is set to expire at the end of this year, and so I know legislatures in the state and the governor are all hopeful to come to some solution to continue that funding for next year. But again, monitoring that, waiting to see how that finalizes and what that means for the district, if there's any parameters or new guardrails on that funding. Some of the known implications that are included into this projected budget, again, are the estimated 2% inflation adjustment to the base support level. So the state is running about 3.5% in terms of inflation. Minimally, the state legislature is obligated to match 2%. They can go higher if they choose, but they have not in years past. And so I am including that 2% inflation adjustment to our base level support in our proposed budget for next year. The Arizona State Retirement System, as I mentioned in the last meeting, is decreasing their rates. That's a favor for both our employees and the district, as both are contributors into that retirement system. So the decrease in the Arizona State Retirement System to 12%, that will realize about $200,000 savings for the district, and employees can calculate 0.27%. That would be back into their paycheck. So not a lot, but it is a positive movement with that rate going down. In addition, the alternative contribution rate, this is for employees that have retired and then are back into the system. They pay a different rate. That rate is also decreasing, has a minimal monetary effect to our district, as we have a very few employees that have retired and that we've hired back. On the last column there, our HUSD kind of special budget estimates. Our M&O transfer to capital, this is our middle school lease payment. I want to thank Mr. Arman for coming in and getting a deep dive into the middle school lease history. But this is our current obligation is $3.5 million for principal and interest payment. And that is for the next 28 years. That will go down over the years, but for the most part, we're looking at a $3 million plus for that payment. We have continued to fund that from our M&O budget via transfer, as we have to pay that statutorily from our capital budget. So, as I mentioned, the first iteration of this projected budget, we are now being a little more aggressive in our projections for ADM loss. We are in this budget, we're projecting an ADM loss of 300. Now, again, we hope that is conservative, and we hope that is not the case, but as we saw in December, we underestimated that enrollment loss to the tune of about 250. And so increasing that ADM loss on the front end will let us appropriately budget for the fiscal year. And if we come in above that or under that, hopefully under that, we'll have some budget capacity to add back into the budget to utilize in the middle of the year. In addition, this is FIFA 26. Our override will now begin its phase down, as again, it was not renewed in November. That phase down is estimated at approximately a reduction of $5.1 million for FY26. So just a quick snapshot again of same summary of what I presented in the first round. We have no new information, so this is still our FY26 projected proposed budget. But just to recap, the top section is our current revised budget as of December 10th. That's $125 million. We are looking at the bottom half, FY26 projected proposed budget. Again, it's taking into consideration everything I just mentioned. So the 300 unweighted ADM decrease, the first year the M&O phase down, and then our M&O transfer to capital for our lease payment. So with all those taken into consideration, it also includes the base level adjustment, so that 2% adjustment. But even with that, the decreases outweigh that 2% increase in the base level adjustment. And we are projecting a M&O budget of $116 million, which comparatively to what we have, our current budget to our projected budget, we're looking at a $9.2 million decrease. We do have some information that we are starting to fill out. As a reminder, I didn't have any of this information in the first iteration. So property insurance, casualty insurance, and workers' compensation. Our current carrier, the trust, is finishing their board meeting in the middle of this week. And so we should have those renewal rates at our March meeting. Again, every indication is the reinsurance market is going to go up. So even we've had low claims, but just the reinsurance market for property and all the valuables, everything's valued at a higher dollar amount. And so we anticipate those numbers to go up. We have finalized kind of our utilities FY26 budget projections. We are seeing we are budgeting for a $200,000 increase, largely in part to the SRP unknown increases that are going to occur mid-year based on their letters that they've provided us. So SRP has made it known that they are researching an increase in utility rates. They operate on a calendar year, and so they won't have any proposals or any information to us until November. That is smack dab in the middle of our fiscal year, and so we are being prudent and anticipating an increase, and we are setting aside $200,000 in large part to have enough budget capacity to address those utility increases. Our school and department budgets, we have had difficult conversations in terms of reducing our department and school budgets across the board. Our largest contributors are from the maintenance operations department. We made some large reductions in their M&O budget. In addition to Shauna and the SPED department, we've made some large reductions in that department as well, while still maintaining our compliance and our obligated standard, obligation to service those students. When we take into consideration all those budgets, we're looking at reducing, getting back, maybe is a better way to say it, of $750,000. And so we'll see an estimated cost savings right now without the insurance numbers in there of $550,000 in reduction. So when we put that into the equation, we currently, as a reminder, so we're currently realizing a budget decrease into FY26 of $9.2 million. In the first presentation, we talked about the $5.1 million in position reductions for fiscal year 26. In FY26 recommended fixed costs, we now have a little more information, and I've included the $550,000 in net reduction for our department and school budgets in large part, and our increases to utilities. So we are now looking at a budget decrease of $3.6 million. And this is where I talked to the board about utilizing some of the budget balance carry forward to absorb, basically budget to a deficit next year. Again, this is not a long-term solution, but we do have that carry forward, and we can utilize it for this purpose. Looking at what we would deem phase 2. So as it stands, we do not have authorization for an override continuation. And so me being very conservative and try to be prudent and get ahead of FY27, so this would be 2 years now, we need to look at realistically, as it stands right now, what that reduction would look like and go through that process as early as possible. And so this, again, is the M&O override phase down timeline. So again, we are already planning for fiscal 26, which is what I just went over. That reduction, again, is estimated at $5.1 million. In FY27, we're looking at another $5 million. So again, it comes in, the override phase down is in thirds. And so we, again, would like to start, we've started conversation with our leadership. We would like to engage our community and a lot of our stakeholders into this process, as we have about a year to formalize some of those reductions if no resolution is called for the continuation of the override. So, and then in fiscal year 28, there would be the complete reduction of the override funding, again, which is currently providing about $14 million in additional M&O budget capacity for the district. So with that, I'm gonna let Ms. Richards explain about the steps that we will be utilizing for phase 2.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Moore. President Wade, members of the board, this is what our plan is at the moment. We want to be able to collect input from all stakeholder groups. That includes all employees, our parents, community, leadership, meet and confer, and I would like for our students on the Superintendent Advisory Council to participate as well. So our goal is to come back on March 4th with some recommendations that we've gathered both through surveys that will go to these groups and our community meeting that we have scheduled for Wednesday, February 19th at 5. That is Wednesday, isn't it? Okay. My brain is Tuesday, Wednesday. Anyway, I think it's super important as we move through this. We're listening to kids, like Ms. Jarman mentioned, our employees, the community, and our parents specifically. So we've started on this survey. Our goal is to send it out on Monday with a 2-week window. So send it out on the 10th and have it come back on the 24th so we can compile the data and report back. So you wouldn't think it would be tricky to put together a survey like that, so it makes sense. So we've spent quite a bit of time working on that to ensure that it's clear. So it'll be the phase 2 plan if there is no voter approval for the continuation. So I think what we are doing is trying to be really thoughtful, because anytime you reduce people, programs, it's tough, right? So I think we went through that last meeting too. So I'm interested to get the feedback from our parents, employees, and the community. And then let's see what the students have to say as well. So that's our plan moving forward. And I think if you guys have questions or input on that process, let us know. Because we haven't done this before, or I haven't. It's a new procedure. So, Mr. Moore, do you want to finish up with the budget calendar?
Yeah, just finalizing, again, we hope to bring those results back to the March 4th board meeting, as well as the third and final review of the M&O budget. And I hope to have those insurance rates so you guys get the final full picture of what we're looking at in terms of a proposed FY26 budget, in hopes of you, the board, tentatively approving that so we can issue contracts for teachers, which would go out on March 15th. Once March is completed, we'll kind of shift our focus to the capital budget and start those discussions on April 1st and continue through April 22nd. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. I don't necessarily have a question. I just, given some of the comments that we've had today and the chart that we have where we look at what phase 2 looks like, what phase 3 looks like, I'm appreciative for the members of the community who talked about one of the programs that's getting hurt now, which would be Think, and the idea behind that. For those of you who have not been here the last time our M&O did not pass and those types of things, we are seeing similar hardships to what we have had in the past. And so I hope as we can continue to go forward over the course of the next year, we can work with the community and get people to see kind of how these changes impact, because they have a direct impact on our students, and our students are the ones who are harmed at the end of the day. And it's hard decisions that we have to make, and it's not something that we want. And we routinely talk about how, you know, we're competing for students with other schools and everything else. And this is common throughout our state. This is the way our state structures funding. And so you have a lot of districts who are in similar positions. For example, Mesa has to cut 144 positions, which is a lot. And I recognize that Mesa is larger than us. That's a lot. And so I think when we see how these impacts can happen and when we feel these things, hopefully we can make it a point to talk about the importance of going forward. And so when community gets these surveys and you see things and go, oh God, I don't want this to go away, I can't do that. Yes, we agree. We agree we don't want these programs to go away. And so I think it is important for us to kind of keep in mind the hardships that could come as a result. Mr. Moore, as always, I'm appreciative of the way in which you do your job. I'm appreciative of how this administration recognizes that these dollars are attached to human persons and that there is hardship in that. And so I'm always appreciative of creative ways to try to figure out how we can look forward. And I am always appreciative of looking to prepare rather than being responsive to some of these problems. And I think that's the best that we can do. So I appreciate it.
President Wade.
President Wade? No.
Go ahead, Ms. Van Hook.
Thank you. I want to just mention, yes, obviously the override and bond didn't pass, but at the same time, I will remind we have a 20% M&O carryover. And so we're not in a bad position. And for me, it's a bit frustrating pulling at parents' heartstrings, saying it impacts this. Yes, obviously it impacts this, but our main concern should be to do what it takes to ensure that we're attracting families. And when we have upset parents because there's a lack of transparency and parents aren't being heard, or things that are happening in classrooms that's upsetting parents, that's causing them to pull their children, that is the direct impact, where students are leaving our district, which means we're losing the funding. So we really have to think hard, what can we do to change this so that we are attracting families instead of pushing families out? That should be our main priority, instead of making parents feel bad and say, oh, you didn't pass the bond, so now you're going to feel the impact of losing a program that was benefiting your child. And that needs to be the number one priority in all of it. What shall we do in our district that's going to attract parents? And I mean, I've talked about several things over the last 2 years, and sometimes I feel like it falls on deaf ears, but it truly is impactful. And I hear from these parents all the time. Another question I have for Mr. Moore is, I noticed that the projected budget, the 9 million, that number changed a little bit, but it's not reflected in the numbers above. Can you explain what that's from? I mean, it's not a big change, but there is definitely a change from the last presentation.
Yeah, President Wade, Member Van Hook, yeah. We continue to update these based on current enrollment numbers. So as we finish out our fiscal year, we are continuing to update them as our ADM continues to fluctuate based on AOI. AOI does not function, we still get funding, and counts change past the 100-day. So that changes our current budget projections for next year. Again, we're projecting out about 4 or 5 months out. We want to update this as much as we can to the most accurate information. So as our ADM fluctuates, we modify that and present that to the board as the most current and recent numbers.
Thank you. That's all I have.
President Wade, I have, as a community member, I just want to say what kind of, in my general opinion, and you guys can counter this either way, but the things that kind of pull people from the district is the lack of curriculum transparency and safety and security. Sometimes people really have rough experiences with the district, and sadly they feel like that's not addressed and there isn't kind of a swift change. So I'm hopeful, because we're working together and we've got some years going on, but ultimately that is kind of the strings that I see that pull people, sadly, from the district. So I think there's room for improvement, so maybe we can touch base with that in the future. And again, I just want to say I am a very big advocate of family. And so I was thinking about these programs and stuff, and I don't know if some of them pull extra time away from the family. That is unnecessary sometimes, but maybe those are the ones that we just kind of reassess and look at. In any business, the left hand needs to know what the right hand's doing. And in a way, we need to all kind of just cooperate and help Mr. Moore do his job better. I bet it's hard for him sometimes. But if we can help figure out ways where we can perhaps pull some funding from if it's not efficient for families, and additional time or just distractions, and the students are not really enjoying it so much, then those are things, again, that we can kind of swift away and just touch base on what they really love, and then just get those wants kind of a little bit away if they're distracting and aren't very productive when it comes to focusing on academics. And just really give families and parents what they want. They really just want a good, wholesome education. And just thank you.
Madam President, well, I don't want to counter anything that anyone has said, because that you guys are all entitled to your opinions, but there are enrollment challenges really everywhere throughout Arizona, and it's not because the curriculum. I teach in a different district. I teach science and I teach social studies. The social studies books I'm using were adopted in 2007. The standards may have changed a bit, but the materials that we still have are the same materials. What is not being mentioned here at all is the fact that our state legislature has decided to give public money to private schools. And that's why we're all struggling with our funding. And I just want to point that out as another counterpoint to, something to think about.
President Wade, I'd like to say something about that. So everybody's blaming ESAs. It's not ESA's fault. Parents wouldn't utilize ESAs if they were happy with the school. Obviously, if a parent is choosing to pull their child and uses ESA dollars, then there's a reason for that. A parent can pull their child out completely from a district and not use the ESA, and the district would get absolutely no money. But when a parent pulls their child out and uses ESA, the district still gets half the money. So in a way, a parent being on ESA is still benefiting the district. We have to keep that in mind, and it's not the fact that the legislatures decided to give money to private schools. It's giving parents a choice to make the best decision for their child's education. And that's why I'm saying we have to make that decision on, constant negative news and inappropriate sexual books given to our students, such as The Father Spoke Tonight, assignments like that. Those are the kinds of things that are pulling parents out of our district, pulling students out of our district. I hear it weekly.
Madam President,
And so
Madam President, Ms. Van Hook, I think we're getting away from the topic at hand, which is your maintenance and override budget. While some of the discussion among the board members has been about reasons for student decline in enrollment, which is directly related to budget, I think we are straying from the topic. And so I'd ask that we reconnect to the presentation that Mr. Moore gave and questions related to that, please. Thank you.
All right, this takes us to item 6.3, fiscal year 2025-2026 employee contracts. We're going to go to Ms. Johnson for employee contracts.
President Wade, members of the board, before you have the employee contracts for fiscal year 25-26. We did move this to an information item as there were some questions regarding the contracts and some possible changes to them based on the contract questions. So I don't know if you want me to get into the questions. Would you like me to go there?
You guide us, Ms. Johnson. Do what feels great.
Okay. So we did have a question in regards to gender identity, and now that there has been an executive order that is being asked to be removed. We are at the point of with legal counsel making the recommendation to remove that, but we have a few policies that may affect, so we would have to bring the policies back to the board as well if we remove that language from the contract. So I'm working with legal counsel, Mr. Hawes, and of course, our legal counsel here this evening. Also, another question was asked about adding language to contracts in regards to and district policies. And so checking into that as well, and I'll be happy to update the board members through status this week on some of these questions that you've had. That one I will be able to answer. And then we do have something new that was put in the contract, and it's according to a statute that if there is if an employee, specifically a certified employee, has some type of offense or has been arrested for some type of offense, that they would immediately need to refer that to the superintendent. So we're double checking if that's for every employee or just certified employees. We'll look into that. Again, that would mean that we would have to change a policy. GBEB states currently that they must report to a supervisor. We want to be specific with our contracts. And then there was some discussion too in regards to liquidated damages, and we're looking into that as well. And I will report in status this week about liquidated damages and what that would look like. Again, if a change is needed, we would need to bring the policy GCB back to the board as well to be updated. So a lot of the changes or questions that we had definitely reflect policy as well as the contracts. So I should have more information for the board. Our plan is to bring that to a status and then bring the contracts back for approval. And if any policy needs to be changed or updated, revision would happen at the March 4th, along with the approval of the contract language. Questions?
Yes.
President Wade, oops, sorry, I can't see anybody, so it's hard for me to know who's speaking.
Go ahead, Ms. Van Hook, and then we'll go after you because it's easier.
Thank you. I just lost my question here. Oh, yes. Ms. Johnson, one of the questions I had was about the background checks. I know there's a portion in the contracts that mentions that, but I wanted to know if there's a policy related to background checks that's then tied to the contracts. And if, for instance, I know with like Mandarin, if we ever hire a foreign teacher to come in and teach a foreign language, for instance, do we only do background checks within the states, or do we also do Interpol background checks for those types of situations? And if we don't, is that something that we can consider doing and including as part of the language and the policy and the contract for any type of employee like that, to ensure that, obviously if they're coming from a foreign country, their local record would be clear.
Yes,
so just something to consider. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, Member Van Hook, yes, we do background checks on every employee as far back as we need to. That is 7 years. And also, every employee that works for us must have a fingerprint card, and that goes back 99 years. So that, I wasn't aware of a background question coming in, so I'll check into that as well. But yes, we're covered with a policy, and we're covered in when we hire somebody, they have to go through that process. We do not allow anyone to work until those two things are completed.
Can I also add, Ms. Johnson, too? Ms. Van Hook, members of the board, we do have a background check service provider that we do utilize, and we do pay for an additional international check. So if they're coming from Asia or from Europe, or anywhere else in the world. That is a supplemental that we ensured that we have as part of our package. So it does do international checks as needed.
Wonderful. Thank you. That was my main concern.
Other questions?
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Ms. Johnson, did you want me to talk about the conversation that we had? Yes?
You're welcome to, yes.
Okay. So just for the rest of you guys, policy GCB talks about the liquidated damages. And it just has come to my, there's a couple of things that have come to my attention. But one is I saw the language in the certified teacher contract. So in, well, it's a different number, but in line 21 of the teacher contracts, it says the district reserves the right to waive or reduce the amount owed of liquidated damages if certificated teacher's failure to perform the entire term of the contract is due to circumstances beyond his or her control. And that's great, and there are situations where that does happen. There have been occasions everywhere I've worked that sometimes you have an employee that is, you know, unhappy, making everybody unhappy, and you just sometimes have to have a conversation with them that, like, is this really what you want to do? And so one of the fastest ways to get them on their way would be to remove, or just to add the language that if it was deemed in the best interest of the district by the superintendent, that gives them some discretion, because otherwise you're either dragging it out and they're going to wait till the end of the year and make everybody even more miserable, or, you know, they have to wait like a month and hope that it goes through to the board and that it passes. Sometimes there are situations where, you know, it's really best if people parted ways, and that's just a little speed bump that gets in the way. And I also would, you know, I've been thinking about, you know, as we sign contracts, we sign them very early. I think teachers should be able to go out and look for other jobs. I mean, job abandonment, fine, that collect the liquidated damages. Criminal stuff, collect the liquidated damages. But like, if you have an example like a teacher, you know, that I know, you know, her 2 people in her family died, and it was just becoming too much. And you know, to charge them $1,000 when they just, you know, mentally need a break, it just takes a long time. But as we, you know, start to downsize some of these things, there will be people that are going to have to be moved locations, and sometimes maybe you just don't want to, you know, you don't want to move, but if they've already signed the contract, then they have to pay, and I just think we should be a little more flexible. I would like to give the superintendent the flexibility, so just to add that line, you know, if it's deemed in the best interest of the district by the superintendent, that they have the authority on occasion to waive that, just to speed things up for people. And so that would require us to look at policy GCB as well. So that was my concern, just to make it a little bit easier in those rare instances where you have somebody that we all kind of agree probably just need to move on.
Ms. Johnson, just so I can understand what we're supposed to do at the present moment in time, based off of some of these things, so am I to understand it that you will go through talking to legal and finishing up your inquiries at the present moment, and then depending on what your outcome is, at our next meeting, March 4th, is where, for example, Mr. Glover's policy would be where we vote on whether or not to include that language, or is that a discussion you want us to have at the present?
No, we would bring it back.
Okay.
You were right in saying that I'm checking with legal,
Okay.
getting legal advice based on the contracts, the language that's been asked to be added, whether that should or not. And then if we make a recommendation to add that language to the contract, then policy would need to be changed as well. They have to match, right? The contract and the policy needs to match. So we would make those recommendations, both of the policy, and if you don't approve the policy, then obviously the language would stay the same.
Okay. So right now, we
have
don't need
all
to
that.
do anything on any of the requests or all of that until the next. I just want to make sure I understood that.
That is correct.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, President Lee.
Do we have any further comments?
President Anderson. I mean, I can't stop doing that. President Wade. Okay, one issue I've had with liquidated damages is the fact that we have in the past had an employee who resigned due to inappropriate conduct. The employee was allowed to resign, And then we allowed the individual, we voted to allow this person out of their contract. And I don't find that to be right. If an employee has done something wrong and they're being asked to resign instead of being terminated, which I don't agree with to begin with, if an employee has violated district policy or state laws, I think it should be termination instead of being allowed to resign and then just go to a different district. But I think in this situation too, if we're going to have such policy, that we should have verbiage in there that in those situations, first, we as a board need to know who that individual is so that when we see them in the documents, we know who they are. And then also be able to not have liquidated damages waived if they're having to leave due to inappropriate conduct or violation of law or policy. So I'd like to be able to see that. And I mean, I understand that it sucks to, have to pay that, but it is a contract and that they have to sign. And just like any other contract, if you sign it, you have to be responsible for it. And to just leave it at the discretion of, is this benefiting the district if this person just leaves, but then the district then takes on the burden of covering their fees for breaking their contract, and now having to spend money to hire a new staff member, that's an impact that obviously impacts our taxpayers. And us as the board, we're here to ensure that our district is spending money wisely, that's benefiting our taxpayers, and we need to be cognizant of that as well. Thank you.
Okay, so to clarify, Ms. Johnson, next meeting is when we can talk about what legal advice is per this, correct? Can we also include in that, because as far as I understand it, having worked here and all of that, should I break my contract, the fees are to me. There is no fee to us as a district should somebody decide to leave and no longer do their contract. Whether we collect the $1,000 or not, there is no cost to us. It's either we're collecting the $1,000 from them or we are not, as far as liquidated damages, correct?
Well, no, because there's fees to rehire somebody. And is that what you're talking about, President?
I'm just, the rehiring is separate to what I'm talking about specifically. I just mean contractually. If we lose an employee, no matter what, we're going to have to do that regardless whether they sign their contract and not and all that jazz. That's the same across the board. I just wanted to make sure that there is no additional fees that are part of the contract itself. The cost to us would be having to replace said individual.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. That was all. This moves us to action item 7.1. We are looking at approval of special warranty deed with Town of Gilbert for Gateway Point Elementary. Before I make a motion on this, I'm going to have Mr. Moore clarify some things just to make sure we understand it before we go on.
Yeah, President Wade, members of the board, just to explain this agenda item briefly before you vote on it. As they stated in the issue, we've been working with the development of the villages of Bella Astoria, which is the property south of Gateway Point Elementary. This has been going on for a year now. A part of their requirements in order to continue their development of that land is to, the town of Gilbert is requiring them to put in a roundabout at the intersection of Blue Jay. This roundabout will take a portion of our property and convert it into easement, approximately 343 square feet. We view this warranty deed as beneficial for the district, as that roundabout will include now 2 student crosswalks. And obviously with a roundabout, there's some slowing to traffic. So there's some benefits for the district, which is why you see a monetary dollar denomination in the warranty deed with us moving this 343 square feet to the town of Gilbert and deeming it now easement. So I'll be happy to answer any questions if the board has any, but that's my explanation of this agenda item.
Awesome. This is my kid's school in my neighborhood, so I'm looking forward to the easement of traffic in some of those areas. I think might be beneficial. So if nobody has anything, I motion that the governing board approve special warranty deed with Town of Gilbert for Gateway Point easement.
Second.
That's Mr. Glover, seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Was that an aye from Ms. Van? Okay, great. Motion passes 5-0. Don't know where that was. All right, we are on to 7.2, approval of fiscal year 2024 audit reports. Again, I'm going to give Mr. Moore a minute before I motion on this one.
Thank you, President Wade, members of the board. I just want to take a brief moment to mention two things. These audit reports, one, firstly, we had a unmodified audit with no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses. Again, this is the culmination of not just me, my team, and really in part the whole district, right? A lot of our procedures that we put in place that maybe teachers or other classified staff and coaches feel are overburdening them. They're not procedures that we put in place discretionary, right? We have those procedures in place to meet these large compliance rules that we must follow. And so I also want to say thank you to all those teachers, staff, and anybody who is involved in some sort of a procurement process with the school district for, one, helping us by following those procedures that we put in place. Again, we don't try to overburden staff, but it's really a whole district culmination of having an audit that's clean. And two, I think this is an opportunity to address the consent item agenda regarding the Certificate of Excellence Award. That is a fee we pay to send this audit to get additional basically review. So we go above and beyond our state audit standards, and we send our audit to the national review team to have it reviewed. And we that is called the Certificate of Excellence Award. But that fee is to pay for the fee to have our audit reviewed. So, thank you.
I just want to...
President Wade. Oh, sorry.
Mr. Moore, the fee is to pay to have the review, not for the actual award itself, correct? Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
President Wade. Can you hear me?
Go ahead, Ms. Van Hook.
Thank you. The only issue I have with the audit report being as an action item is the fact that we didn't have an opportunity for this to be presented to the board as an information item and for the numbers to be explained to everybody. And I'm not sure that everybody on the board has a full understanding of the data that's in the audit in order to approve it. I think items like this should be brought to the board as an informational item and explained so that we understand all the details that are in it, especially, you know, all the financial information. And so that's my only concern. Here, all five of us have a full understanding of what's in this audit and what we're about to approve? And I'm not confident that that is the case. And so with that said, I'd like to move to table this item and bring it back as an informational item first before we actually approve it. So I guess I can make
a second.
If you didn't hear, sorry, go ahead.
We have a motion to table item 7.2, approval of fiscal year 2024. All those in favor of tabling?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Nay as well. That was 0.
And President Wade, this is the problem. We as a board continue to rubber stamp information without the full understanding of what is being presented to us for approval.
Board Member
Sure,
Van
let's go
Hook, I'm
ahead.
going to ask that we move on from the table has not passed. I recognize the frustration with that. If you have anything more specifically to this specific agenda item, that is totally fine. I will let you continue with that. But I recognize and understand where your position may be. It's just not the position held by everybody on the board in that process.
And I understand that. But again, and I have the right to state, the board continues to rubber stamp information without asking questions and expecting answers. And this is a major problem. And so you have a right to proceed to approve something that you might not have a full understanding of. So yeah, let's proceed. Let's vote. Thank you.
I do wish to express, as far as the statement of rubber stamping, where I may choose or other individuals may choose, our understanding of the process or our understanding of what's in front of us may differ. And again, that is part of governance, and I recognize the frustration with that. Hopefully, as we go forward, we can continue, or there are other opportunities for those of us on the board who still struggle to understand, to make meetings with Mr. Moore if we wish to have more information on that. So with that, I motion that the governing board approve the fiscal year 2024 audit reports as presented.
Second.
That would be Ms. Schultz. Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, I didn't hear.
I will abstain.
Okay. So motion passes 4-0 with 1 abstention. Moving on to discussion, 7.3, discussion of board meeting start time.
President Wade. We have got some feedback from the community, and one of them had to do with, or some of it had to do with points of pride. And so I would like to make a proposal of moving points of pride to 5:30, and then with the board business starting at 6 o'clock, which I think might help everyone. And then also allowing for public comment for people to sign up for public comment up until 6 o'clock.
I'm going to ask for legal guidance on how you want us to do that.
I have to make a motion. You'd like me to make it, right?
Right, so right now, Madam President, Ms. Schultz, you are just...
I'm sorry, I forgot to say my motion. I said propose, and I apologize.
So you're in discussion on that item?
Yes.
I would understand the motion to mean that you were moving to move the start time of the board meeting to 5:30, essentially. And that would allow the points of pride to occur. You have the option to, as a governing board, to require the administration to accept a request for public comment up until 6 p.m. That's not illegal. You can set your rules of order about that issue. So.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Oh, yeah, absolutely. We can have more discussion. Yeah.
There is not, Ms. Van Hook. If you would like to say something, go ahead.
Yes, please. So at the last meeting, Board Member Glover asked for community feedback, and we got community feedback. And the majority of the feedback that we got was asking us not to move the meeting time. And if we're going to listen to the community, they're asking not to move the time, and we need to consider that. We had Taylor emailed in great information regarding other districts. We are the earliest district around us, and that hasn't changed anything. And so I would like to keep it at 6 o'clock, because that allows more community involvement. And whether it's online or it's in person, we might not have seen a drastic increase of in-person attendance, but that doesn't mean that these people aren't involved after work or on their way home. And we need to ensure that our board meetings reflect our commitment to our family values and our community engagement. That's why we're here. We're here to serve the community. And the earlier our meetings are, the more we eliminate our community members. And we as a board, it's our job to be here for the community and give them the opportunity to come in after work if they have something to say. You know, they might not attend on a regular basis, but if they have something to say one day, that they have the opportunity to come in with a 6 o'clock meeting. So my recommendation would be to keep it at 6 o'clock.
One thing I would like to say is, once it's online, it's online. And so you can watch it at any time. And so that's the great thing about putting it online, is that you could watch meetings from, I think, 4 years ago, if you wanted to go back. So I don't think that start time affects you, because you can watch it at any time online.
Board member.
President Wade.
President Wade. Oh, sorry. There's a delay. I'm sorry.
President Wade, I also like the current time schedule. I really think that it's helpful for families buttoning down everything at home, getting everything and all the homework kind of settled if need be in dinner. Gilbert, Queen Creek, and Scottsdale, they have a similar time currently, 6 p.m. And these are other school districts. Mesa's at 6:30, Deer Valley and Chandler's at 7 p.m. So I think 6, keeping it the same, is the good balance around. So thank you.
President Wade, one of the things that Mr. Francis mentioned in his email was the fact that, yes, people can watch at home, but it's when they want the opportunity to be able to come in and speak, and because of work, they're unable to do that. That eliminates them. That eliminates the ability for them to be able to do that. So if this is, you know, for just to be able to change the time, I don't even know why it was recommended to bring this back, because we voted to move the time less than 6 months ago, and here we're asking to change it back. And we wanted to hear from the community. We heard from the community. The majority of the community wants to keep it at 6 o'clock.
Thank you, Madam President. So I was back and forth on this issue, and I know that the staff stays very late and has to get up and all work in the morning, as do I. I was comfortable, because the dates had already been through June 24th for 6 p.m., living with that. I don't, you know, I'm like, you know, Babe Lincoln, changing horses midstream. I think your proposal, I think what I heard, and let me just say that I heard from only about like a dozen, maybe a little, slightly more than a dozen, less than 2 dozen, certainly, people out of the tens of thousands that live here. So, you know, I don't know, that was enough feedback. But I like your proposal. What I really heard from that, and what I've taken away from some of the reasonable, well-written input that I received, is that our meetings are running long. And an example was just previously, if I have problems with anything Mr. Moore presented or Ms. Richards presented, I like to just talk to you guys ahead of time. So I will call you first thing Monday, some of you know, and get things in the works so that I can understand everything that I have to vote on. I feel like that's my responsibility. That's the way I approach the job. And I think that can help contribute to shorter meetings. I also noticed that the points of pride were a little bit shorter. I don't think that was accident. So that also helps. But I like your proposal of 5:30 for Points of Pride. Then we can take a break and still start at 6. That seems like a reasonable solution to me. And I was thinking that I wasn't sure how it was going to go, but that seems reasonable to me.
I also would like to say that doing the Points of Pride, I recognize a lot of times we have a lot of elementary schools, and so part of me is I feel like the littles and getting them home for bedtime and all of that jazz seems delightful. We also had cheer in here today who had to come here just to then turn around and go back. And so I do think that is a best of both worlds in terms of we allow for the opportunity of Points of Pride. The benefit of that is the individuals who are in Points of Pride, they know ahead of time, right? You know who's going, so you get the email notice at your school and site and all that jazz. And it gives us opportunities to, honor the many accomplishments of all the different groups and programs and things that we have, and still giving people an opportunity to get here by 6. You can still do the public comments and all of that until 6. I think that's a reasonable solution to meet all things, I guess, in that our meeting still, as far as the things and the decisions that the community cares about, that people are here for, all of that would still start at 6. And so that seems, like a rational solution. I'm at least willing to vote on it.
Then I would like to motion that we start the meeting at 5:30 with Points of Pride. Can I say allowing for public comment to be taken? I think that's not the request. Thank you. Allowing for requests to speak to happen until 6 p.m. And that's it.
I will second that. So all those in favor, just to recap, this would move the Points of Pride, essentially the start of our thing, to 5:30, and then board business will start at 6 with keeping public comments available until 6 p.m. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Motion carries 3-2. Math is mathing. This moves us to 7.4, approval of the 2025-2026 board meeting dates. Are there any questions or comments before we vote on this?
I would like to move to change one date. I'd like to ask if there's any issues with moving July 15th to July 8th.
No, Mr. Moore does not. President Wade, Mr. Moore has no concerns with that date change because we usually defer to him.
Okay.
The budget reports. So you're saying it's okay? Okay.
I will comment because
Thank you.
staring at
Board
me.
Member Van Hook, is that because you're unable to attend on the 15th?
That's correct. Then I'd like to be able to be present. So that's why I'm asking if we can just move that one single date, because I have already that date set for something that I have to be at. So with that said, I move to change July 15th to July 8th.
Madam President, Ms. Van Hook, do you think you could withdraw that motion and move to approve the item as presented with the exception of the moving of the date from July 8th to July 15th?
Board Member Van Hook, before you make that motion, it's just hard because of the delay. Vice President Schultz wanted to make a comment before the vote or motion.
I would just not be able to attend on July 8th. I believe that's a holiday weekend as well. It's part of 4th of July, or week.
So
4th of July. This is the 8th. 4th of July would be the week before.
Correct. It's the weekend of travel for most folks is what I take it Vice President Schultz was meaning.
And this would be the Tuesday after 4th of July.
Correct. We understand that. That part is clear. You can call in on that one? Sweet. Awesome. Could you please express the motion again? And then Board Member Van Hook, I'll just do the motion so, this is easier. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Madam Vice President, the board should move to approve the board meeting dates for 25-26 as presented, with the exception of moving the board business meeting on July 15th to July 8th, 2026.
Second.
Oh, wait, no. Can you motion?
No, I can't.
Okay. I was like, well, goodness, this is delightful. Please, go ahead. All right.
You can say so.
One
so
second,
moved.
Sarah. We'll get you in there. All right.
One of you can say so moved as presented.
Ooh, I like that. So moved as presented. Second. Sorry, I'm writing on the wrong spot. So that was Sarah Jarman with the second. Okay. So I don't need to motion again. That was what we just did. All those in favor? Aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thanks for that one.
Thank you.
All right. Item 7.5, approval of overnight and/or out-of-state staff travel. Questions or comments?
Board Member Wade, I asked to pull this item because this conference is set to for Ms. Richards to attend 3 months before retirement. And I'm not sure, I know, so it looks like almost $9,000 was paid in September of 2024. And that money covered registration, flights, and lodging, and 3 other conferences. What I'd like to know is, were the other conferences already attended or are remaining to attend? And was this paid in September? So if we didn't attend the other 2 conferences, so was this paid in September, knowing that this conference was going to be in March of this year?
Board Member Van Hook, I hope I can answer your questions. This insert is an organization. It's the National Center for Education and Research. These conferences are national executive leadership conferences. In the fall of 2022, Higley was invited to join insert. There are 3 districts in the state of Arizona that are invited to participate. I did attend the conference in October. I did know that this conference was in March, and it's my understanding they will have one in July, and my hopes would be that the new superintendent, especially with our start date being adjusted, would be able to participate. And there are about 900 superintendents from across the country that attend these conferences, and I found it very valuable. So I would love for the next superintendent to be able to participate. Did I answer everything, Board Member Van Hook?
Yes, thank you. And it's good to know that there was one in October, so you've been able to take advantage of the for all the conferences. But so you're saying that this is transferable, it's not just to specific individual?
Yes.
Okay. my main concern was just that 3 months before, the contract ending, and then just the value of that for the community and the district.
Well, with permission, President Wade, I found it very valuable in October, and I did bring back, and if you might remember, we went to the Naval Academy, and I shared some things we've learned, and we've also, honestly, that Superintendent's Advisory Council was part of that vision as well. So my intention is not to go and not bring it back. My intention is I have to go and bring it back to Cabinet and report back to you guys as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Richards. I also would like to say I'm appreciative of the fact that, yes, we know we only have you for so long before you're no longer with us. It is also part of your contractual obligations and part of our evaluation of you, these PDs. So, I mean, I'm appreciative at least that you're looking at it in terms of ways in which you can set whoever comes after you up for success here in Higley as well. So I appreciate that. I'm going to motion that the governing board approves the overnight and out-of-state staff travel requests as presented. That'd be Ms. Jarman with a second. All those in favor? Aye.
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 All right, motion passes 5-0. Items for future agenda. Do we have any future agenda items or requests for future agenda items?
I was going to recommend a policy, but it sounds like from Ms. Johnson that they'll be bringing that policy back anyway, so I'm good.
I mentioned this earlier to Ms. Batista, but a marketing report on what our numbers and where our money was spent and how it affected our kindergarten roundup. I know we still have all the other outside issues, birth rate and everything, but just like to see those numbers. Thank you.
And the athletic kind of opt-in thing, or opt-out?
That one was in our status last Friday. And so I don't know what date that's coming, but it was mentioned in our status last week when district's going to come to us with that, or at least that they will be.
For President Wade, we plan on coming March 4th with that information.
There you go.
We've been getting information from our surrounding districts, compiling, and we'll bring a recommendation to you on that date.
I also appreciate the quick turnaround on that because that's a large task and that was a large ask. And so when the community asked, you did the work for that. And so I'm appreciative on the timetable for that. I'm appreciative of the work. Don't take credit over there. All right.
Thank you.
Yes, please give credit to Mr. Berkshire as he's helped leading that charge for us. Thank you.
I appreciate it. All right, with that, there's no more. I motion that the governing board adjourn to executive session pursuant to ARS 38-431.03, A1 for discussion or consideration of employment, assignment, appointment, promotion, demotion, dismissal, salaries, disciplining or resignation of a public officer, appointee, or employee of any public body.
Second.
Ms. Jarman seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.